What's up, guys? How's it going? It's Dakota here, and today we are going to kind of go over the existence of my life playing Lords Mobile in the past 3 years. Because, as you probably might notice, I'm 670 million might. I cut down enormous amounts of might so that I could move kingdoms. Now, if you're wondering how much, I can tell you exactly how much. Basically, I went from having 300 million troop might to 50 million troop might so that I could leave kingdoms and come to Kingdom 604. Now, of course, KVK was pretty interesting. I just so happened to run into Ryan, this KVK, by complete accident. Uh, Conveniently, my kingdom ended up winning. I don't know how this happened. Uh, so we've got the level 1 through 5 gym tiles. Now, if you're wondering, like, my score in this, I mean, I never ran into X or X. I heard them, I seen them a little bit, like a few of their members here and there. But for the most part, they were like nowhere to be found. I mean, I don't know where XRX was, but they were playing super sneaky. I don't know what they were doing or where they were, but my point ranking, it was like the bare minimum. Okay, like I wasn't trying to do Kingdom Clash per se because what I'm building now is a Gryphon Trap. Now, if you guys want some advice with building up a actual Gryphon Trap, okay, I had some people ask me about this, and the beauty of cutting down a lot of might like I did is I can pretty much show you how I would do it. Now, I'm still working on it, but as of right now, I have about 1.7 million troops. Okay, now, really in a perfect world, if you're going to build a Gryphon Trap, you want a lot of Tier 4 frontline. You want it to be the one that you're going to use. So in my case, it's logical, right, to assume that if someone's going to go after somebody with a lot of resources, chances are they're probably going to be sending infantry. Now, yeah, there's a chance they'll send range, but a good chunk of them are going to be coming at me with, well, yeah, you guessed it, cavalry, is going to be kind of what I want to use, but then I want to use heroic fighters. So for a Gryphon Trap, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go cav wedge. That way the imp is in the front rather than the back. I want it closer, right? Because you don't want that range near there if they're going to be sending range at you. Obviously, your front line's still going to be cav and you're still going to get hurt, right? But the main thing, right, if you're going to build a Gryphon Trap is you're really limited to the number of armies that you have. Okay, so like if I pop a 50% boost, for example, okay, so, obviously, when you do this, you're already on a 2-hour crunch, all right? You've only got a set number of these. But, like, right off the bat, you're already putting quite a bit on the line here, right? Because not only are you going to be getting all of your troops coming back at one time, and mind you, the way I do it, okay, is I garrison all of the nearby allies that I have near me, and I basically just pull once I'm ready to take a bunch of marches. Okay, it's not a terribly complicated concept, okay, but I obviously want to kind of go into detail though with like why I haven't Gryphon trapped yet, and it mostly amounts to the fact that if you're gonna do it, you want to have a lot of like buffer, and I really don't think you want to pull your luck too far. Like I'm gonna put more tier 3 in here. I'll put in enough tier 2 that I cover myself, but I'm mostly going to need mostly tier 3 and tier 4 here because that's going to do a bulk of the work for me. Now, that isn't to say I'm not shying away from the other two types. Like, I'm making sure that I get at least 375k range before I get too far into it. And yes, I know, you can see I've got some grunts in there. Don't worry about that. That's just in case somebody sends, well, some people can be pretty mean, and what they'll do is they'll spam Pyrus attacks, and you don't want that. But that's kind of the main idea behind doing a Gryphon Trap. Now, a few tips that I can give you, okay, regarding a Gryphon Trap, especially if you're at like 600 mil or above, is you're probably not going to get anybody to fall for it, okay? Now, if you're like only 100 million might, it's a lot easier to do this, but when you're like 6 or 7 or even 800 million might, somebody somewhere is going to smell this a mile away and know right away that this seems a little bit suspicious. What I know from experience already, especially after KVK, is that if you're going to go ahead and do a Gryphon Trap, something that can kind of help you if you're going to go about doing it is you don't want yourself to have any anti-scout, and really you might even have to wait as long as till that boost is gone. I mean, you really want to make it as convincing as possible that you are not in any way whatsoever online. So that means you might want to be wearing research gear. You don't want to be wearing war gear. It might even help you not to be using expensive heroes like this. You might want to, resort to using really cheap looking heroes. You might even want to swap your castle skins to like a cheap, normal, plain Jane castle skin. I mean, I'm saying that because you want to convince somebody, all right, that you're not online, that you're weak, and that you have no position of power whatsoever, okay? Because otherwise, this is probably not going to work out so well. Something else I did find is that if you're in hotspots, and in case you're wondering what I mean by a hotspot, I'm saying if you're by a fort, by a base, or by hives, okay? These are locations that people are often scouting, often looking, often trying to find targets. And so putting yourself in a hive is pretty clever. In fact, even going as far as like changing your name to like maybe there's a bot hive. Now, I know I've talked about bot hives in the past. I'm not a particular fan of bot hives. But one thing I do know is that anytime anybody somewhere thinks they found a bot hive and they find a bot that's unshielded, guess what they probably do? Yeah, and that's kind of that's the angle you got to take with it. You got to find a way to find people's, and in a way you got to mess with their psychology a little bit. You got to change the game a little bit from, oh, this is a normal player to, oh, he could possibly be messing up. And that's all you need, is just a little bit of pushing to get someone to do it. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to go around scouting people all over the place. You do not want to go about sending armies or marches. And so you could spend a good couple hours just during a KVK and not have anybody attack you. And then you'll finally have somebody who pushes the envelope, and that's what gets it going. Now, I've seen some people that have taken this a step further and actually, they'll take an alternate account of theirs and have their alt start sending one-hit solos on your castle, so that it gives people the impression that, wait a minute, this might be a bank, and everybody else joins in. The only problem is during KVK, that's so blatantly obvious that nobody bothers. Okay, so you really don't want to push that angle too much. You can do it if you're like in your own kingdom, but don't try doing that during KVK, because it's going to fail pretty hard, pretty quick. Something that I did notice though is that like, if let's say you're going out and sending your resources, like maybe you're online and you're sending resources as maybe a, like I saw some people, what they would do is they were trying to support the the rally leads trying to hold forts. So what they would do is they would send resources to these guys, and people were going by hitting those players. And that could also be a way to kind of get a bait going. But even still, those are like the little things that, if you, or even like giving someone the impression that you have fury, for example, is really all you need. But even then, it's a tricky thing to be able to do a Gryphon Trap and do it well. I hope some of the tips I've given you are at least of some help. In case you're wondering what I recommend for stats, okay, I really don't think somebody would want to wear, I honestly think it's probably best if you go like a full cav set. I say that because it's your front line, right? And if you're going to be hitting infantry, chances are you want to have cavalry. Okay, so for me, what I would do is I'd actually go for as high enough cav attack as you can go. I get up there in the 600% range, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that high. Okay, it's just that the higher it is, the more damage you do, and therefore the more kills you can get away with. And that's also less damage and friction that you're going to take if you increase the HP as well as the defense for that front line. So that's something else that you need to take into consideration when building it up. And it's not to say that you can't get these kind of stats, okay? You're very likely not going to have stupid high resource stats like I do, especially heroes wise, okay? Like something else that probably comes to mind, all right, is what kind of wall heroes should I be using? And chances are, to answer your question, you're probably going to want to use cav heroes. Okay, because these are really the heroes that are doing a vast majority of the work, and therefore they're the ones that you're going to need. But the one thing that I will say, as far as familiars go, okay, is I recommend you go for these three, okay? And I say that because these are going to drop the HP for regardless of what unit type is sent by 40% if they're fully maxed out. Otherwise, the only other alternative that makes any sense to me is to get these two and then put in Pyrus. And that works just as well, and if not a little better. But those are the little things that I would recommend. You can also go for dropping defense if you can't afford having these three or one or two. Like any drops in infantry is primarily going to do you more good than it is not. Okay, but that's kind of the mindset of what I would do if I'm going to do a Gryphon Trap, and hopefully that helps you out a little bit. So, needless to say, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.